Well, this is a display case with material actually from both Clark and James Williams. A lot of Clark stuff here. Some of his mutes, two of his horns. This flugelhorn's a very famous horn. He probably played it for 20 years. He was one of the first jazz players to play the flugelhorn. And at first he played a Selmer flugelhorn, but after that he went to this. This is made by Olds, and you can see the sort of emblem plate on it. It's a CT horn. It's actually designed by him. It's gold plated, has his name on it, and most any photo after the 1960s with him playing flugelhorn, you'll see that nameplate. He made a lot of famous recordings with that, with horn. And this is the trumpet that kind of goes with that. It's also CT horn. 5 of his mouthpieces. We have one of his cases, alligator case, custom made. And this case down at the bottom here is actually belonged to Miles Davis, one of Clark's great students. And his son Greg showed up at the archive ceremony and donated the Miles trumpet bag and one of his Harmon mutes to us.
Wow.
So, yeah. And that trumpet case has some amazing cologne. Miles wore some serious cologne, and it's still, if I left it on this table, you'd come back here, so your nose can get a treat, as well as your ears and eyes here.
Yeah.
Then this is James's material here. This is a album that James made, one of the most well-known albums with Art Blakey and the Messengers, all signed by the band with Wynton, Billy Pierce, Bobby Watson, late Charles Fambrough, unfortunately, and the late James Williams also. So yeah, there's that. And then this material, CD and a photo, is from an album that actually James Williams and Clark did together on a Japanese label called Talkin' Trash. Gave Clark a chance to mumble in major order. Did the whole, the slow blues thing. Did the preacher thing. It's a great record. James really let him go. And these are some of Clark's many awards. He has hundreds and hundreds of awards, keys to cities, as I was saying before, certificates. This is an award from Swiss Bank Corporation from the Bern Jazz Festival. That's a NAJE award before it became IAJE for his total dedication to jazz education in NAJE in 1984. That's when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame, yeah.
And if you want to move that away, we have first publicity photo for Thad Jones and Mel Lewis, the two young band leaders, which of course was a major piece of history then, to have a African American and a white guy co-lead a band, and the band of course was mixed as well.
Sure.
And before that, in the 50s, you had black bands and you had white bands, and of course there were Benny Goodman, there are examples of it, but this is a band that kind of took it to a whole other level. It's kind of an all-star band at the time. So yeah, their first publicity photo. This is when Thad, this is the archive dedication ceremony with the members of the Vanguard Orchestra. We had the Vanguard Orchestra here on campus. A number of them are on our faculty. And we had them perform several of Thad's famous charts and then collect the music and hand the copies over to the president of William Patterson. So it was like a donation. That was the last time that music was on the bandstand that day,
Yeah.
And then as a sort of a capper to that ceremony, one of Thad's famous arrangements is called To You. Beautiful ballad, hymn-like ballad. And it was actually written for 2 big bands. It was written for the only recorded meeting of the Basie Band and the Duke Ellington Band. Clark was with Duke at that time. And so we put our band on stage with the Vanguard Band, and we played To You together with the 2 big bands, which was quite amazing.
Yeah.
That's the only other time I've ever heard that besides the recording.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a poster of the Clark Terry induction ceremony. That photo, actually, that's the flugelhorn that we were looking at a minute ago.
Yep.
And then all the rest of these are from James Williams. This is 2 different tours of called 100 Gold Fingers. 10 pianists, great pianists on tour together. 10 pianos on stage. Only in Japan would they mount a tour like this. You know, nobody would ever try to afford it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a great idea. And so this poster is 1 year's tour, and the photo of the 10 pianists is another year, different people, some people in common. Beautiful poster, all done on rice paper. And all of these photos, by the way, everything is all hung archivally, you know, so it's UV protected glass, and it's, they're hinged in there, so there's no glue, you know. Normally you would just put a poster or put something on dry mount and just put it in there, but that glue is going to deteriorate after a while. So all this stuff is just hung. You know? So hopefully it's going to look the same in 50 years as it does right now. Some of James's awards down here. If you keep going to the right. And then this beautiful photo of 4 pianos. This is the Contemporary Piano Ensemble with James, Harold Mayburn, who teaches here, Mulgrew Miller, who now leads the program, Jeff Keyser, and Christian McBride, and Tony Reedus, the late Tony Reedus, who also, Tony was really instrumental in helping us get James's archive too. That was because James passed so suddenly, it was all kind of chaotic. And so thanks to Tony and also to James's 2 brothers from Memphis, they were very, very cooperative in a very difficult time, I'm sure, for them, helping us get everything and helping us sort things, and they've been very, very helpful and maintained a relationship since that time for Memphis too.
Great.
Oh, this is all the recording gear. All of this, by the way, everything, the furniture, the storage, all the framing costs, it's all funded by alumni donations from the jazz program. So as we get into this, what my concept is that the alumni of the jazz program will continue to support this. Because, you know, to ask a group of jazz musicians to, you know, donate millions to build a concert hall, probably not. Not a group of jazz, you know, don't say wealthy and jazz musician in the same sentence, you know. But in terms of supporting something like this, very doable. 40 years of alums could very easily support this, you know.
Sure.
So it's a great way to have the legacy of the jazz program, you know. So we can go, you know, anything to digital. So we have, you know, a really high quality turntable that'll play 78s that can go to digital. We can go cassette to digital, CD to digital, we can copy VHS to digital, really high quality sound system, high definition, big TV. I mean, it's a great setup, really wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that, I'm sure, will expand, but right now that we'd have 2 listening stations.
Yeah.
This is a photo shoot that Thad Jones did as he took over the Basie band. Right in the last, about 2 years before he died, he came back to America. He had lived in Copenhagen, been living there. And he came back to take over the Basie band after Basie passed away. And so that was a photo shoot that we got from Rick Laird, actually, a great photographer.
Nice.
2 of Clark's tour posters. And that sketch of Thad Jones actually is a permanent gift on permanent loan from Kendor Publishers, who are up in Delavan, New York. They are the publishers, have been Thad Jones publishers exclusively since the day, since Thad started getting music published. And that sketch appears in the cover of each published arrangement, but that's the original, which is really great.
Awesome.
You know, it was sitting in a file drawer up in their offices, and I said, you know, we'll display this. How about it? You know, yeah. So we can go in here if you want to. We can. This is maybe the least glamorous, but the most important room. This is where all the materials are stored. This is all James Williams materials, cassettes. top two shelves being cassettes featuring James, the bottom shelf being some of James's cassette collection, you know, basically bootleg cassettes from other people. And of course, James is, you know, there's one whole box just solo piano. There's another box that's just duos with great bass players, because, you know, he was a fixture at Bradley's, which was a small club that's now, unfortunately, doesn't exist anymore. But that club, because of their lease, because of their location, had a no drummer policy. So people like James took full advantage of that and really made it into sort of almost like a chamber music club. So James went to great lengths not only to play with all of the current bass players, you know, Christian McBride's in there, duo, Dave Holland, etc., but also a lot of the older players. There's a whole night with Milt Hinton. There's a whole night with like George Duvivier, some of the people that aren't with us anymore. That are, you know, James wanted to make sure he did that with everybody. It was kind of a series. You know, James was a great entrepreneur, great producer. You know, he could make anything happen.
Sure.
You know, so he was always thinking about having things with themes, not just, yeah, let's go play a gig. Who should I call? I don't know. Nothing was random. Everything was for a reason. Everything was about making something happen that was an event, not just, and of course the music was always top level. And he was very committed to helping younger players too. Christian McBride, some of Christian's first gigs are with James. Kevin Eubanks.
Yeah.
The whole Eubanks family. Mulgrews very close to them too.
Yeah,
Kevin,
Eubanks.
some of his first gigs, the famous Tonight Show, former now Tonight Show guitarist. There's a couple of wonderful recordings with James when Kevin was a young guy, you know. So yeah, so this is all of James things, and then over here this is all of Clark Terry's material. We just had these 100 albums come in. We just purchased those as part of Clark's collection. This, for example, here, you can take a shot of this. That's Clark's first recording, a V-disc that was made by the U.S. government for the troops in World War II. Clark Terry, age 25, probably in 1945, playing Billy's Bounce. And that couldn't have been too many months or even weeks after Bird had recorded it.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is that he sounds just like Clark Terry. He's so young. And immediately you know it's Clark, that
Terry,
distinctive sound. And the other side is Benny Goodman. It's the talk of the town, Art Lund, Benny Goodman, and his band. So it was all like for entertainment for the troops, like a morale thing, you know. But Clark was part of that, and thank God he had that as part of his thing. We also have, you know, his first album. This is Clark's first record on MRC. You can see the people on it: Cecil Payne, Jimmy Cleveland, Horace Silver, Oscar Peterson, Wendell Marshall, and Art Blakey on drums. Too bad he couldn't find anybody to play with him.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see all the great players. Yep. And so there's 100 albums like that are Clark's.
Really nice.
And of course the idea is these are all in, you know, acid-free UV plastic wrappers. We just got them in a little while ago, but there's going to be digital versions of all these, not copyable, but listenable. And so this gets protected and gets basically put in suspended animation, but people can listen to this 78. This 78 is so important. I think I'm going to take it to a studio, our own studio, and have it cleaned up. Because it's still, I mean, God knows where that's been. It was in some guy's backpack in Europe, you know. So it's kind of scratchy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't skip at all, thank God. But, you know, it's 78 from 1945 you're talking about.
Yeah.
70 years, you know. So, you know, there's ways to clean it up, you know. So we have a digital version that's exactly what's on there. But then we also have a digital version that'll take out all the pops and clicks and scratches and mess.
Nice,
so you can kind of see if you can hear it as close as you can get to what it sounded like when the record came out. You know, because the master tapes from that session they probably are somewhere. If they were made by the government, they probably saved them, I would hope.
Yeah.
We have books, CDs from Clark, A lot of autograph things. Clark's great about signing anything that's not moving. Clark will sign it. So this is wonderful. I mean, to have that legacy. This is one of his most recent records. Clark Terry and the Chicago Jazz Orchestra, Porgy and Bess, basically playing a tribute to Miles, but taking it a step more. It's so obvious that Clark's distinctive voice. You can really hear where Miles got his voice from.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And then this is Clark's entire big band library.
Wow.
Everything is in, if you can see, everything is in acid-free folders with acid-free liners between all the parts. And then these boxes are acid-free with the hardware on the outside, so everything is kind of in suspended animation there.
Yeah.
And then these are all the Thad Jones scores here. And you can store them, these are flat boxes, so you can store them about 1.5 inches thick, deep, and then after that, it's not good for the paper to have that much weight on it, but it's better to store it flat than on end. You know?
Sure.
So we have that, and then since we do have some connection with Thad's family, but these are not Thad's albums, they're albums that I've purchased. You know, but we have all of the Thad Jones, Mel Lewis records. We have most of the small group stuff, still looking for a few, and then we have some other later Thad projects like this is a great record he did with Jimmy Smith, Portuguese Soul.
Wow.
He wrote all the, if you can grab that on the back, Thad conducting, and I think it's the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra. They just don't get credited. I mean, that's Cecil Bridgewater in the picture.
Yeah.
So it's probably his band, big band with organ, with Jimmy Smith. And then we have all of the, as I said, all the Thad Jones, Mel Lewis stuff with Joe Williams and with Shirley Scott and all the different things. So it's a great record collection.
Really
CDs
amazing.
as well.
Mm.
We have some CDs that are unreleased. A couple of CDs of Thad playing concerts here at William Patterson. Great interview by a local reporter of Thad for about the time he was teaching here for one of the local papers. It's a great collection. So we have all this material, and there are more families interested now. So we're hoping that more people, either artists who are of that age where they're thinking about what they're going to do with their materials,
Mm-hmm.
or families of artists who've passed, kind of can see the use of this, can see the immediacy of this, not to mention can learn about the tax benefits. You know, yes, there's not a fee that we pay, but if this stuff is appraised, what you get off your taxes is sometimes worth more money than that. So there are more families that we're talking to, and let's hope that there are more archives soon in the future. It's a new thing
definitely.
right now. It's about 3 years old, 2.5. So it's very exciting.
Well, thanks a lot for showing us the archives.
My pleasure.